Kelsey Brookes. I'm a painter in San Diego, California. I'm getting work together right now for a show that will happen June 20th in East Hampton at a gallery called Eric Firestone Gallery. And the show is going to be titled Plants of the Gods, and it is all plant-based hallucinogenic molecules. There's a collection of them together that I have mapped out onto the canvas and painted over the course of the last 7 months or so. Before art, I studied science in school, studied microbiology, and when I graduated, I worked for a while at this place called the Centers for Disease Control. We were studying arboviruses. Arboviruses are the viruses that live inside of arthropods or insects. Right at the time I graduated college, there was a virus called West Nile that was like spreading across the United States for the first time ever. And so I did that for about 2 years. And then I started working at a place here in San Diego, a biotech company called GenProbe. And they were making nucleic acid tests for HIV, HCV, and HBV. These are viruses that live inside of blood, human blood. I did that for about 4 years and then left that research department to paint. Just apropos of nothing, just went and did it. So in between when I worked at the Centers for Disease Control and that I got my research job out here, there was about a 1.5 year period. That 1.5 year period was me going to Australia with a buddy and living in a car and just driving around. Didn't work, just learned to surf and focused on drawing and painting. The humanities that I didn't get to study in school was what I was doing on my own. That was what made Australia important, is because like before that I just did what everybody told me to do and what my aptitude tests directed me toward. Everything that I learned and enjoyed when I was there is what I based the rest of my life on. Everything else kind of went away. Australia was a really important place for me. It was like the birth of my life. I feel like into my own mind is like the most interesting place art has taken me. I feel like learning about how to unite these two passions of mine, science and art, and being able to find a concept, totally utilizing both those parts of my brain and both those interests of mine, I think is good and interesting. And I would not have been able to do it without, pursuing art for the last 10 years. I wouldn't have been able to find that connection between art and science. The center of each one of these little targets is the location of the atom inside of the molecule. So this would be a carbon atom. This is where the location of that carbon atom would be. This would be a hydrogen. That's a hydrogen. And so that's the location of those, and that's how this thing actually maps the molecule. It's not just purely aesthetic painting. There's a concept underpinning this. This painting is not a molecule, but it's one line that starts from the center here and just goes around and around and around and around again until it finally gets to the end. It's something that you stand in front of, you just look at, and then you just allow that to be the experience you have. There's not a deep concept underpinning it that you're supposed to refer back to. So those two things kind of go together. I think the way they meet up is like you have this concept that's rooted in, hallucinogenics and in psychoactive molecules, and those things can kind of warp your perception, warp your reality. And the idea with these is you kind of stand in front of them and you experience that feeling of like disjointedness, or your eyes kind of can't focus in on one place. I'm not super focused on just pure inspiration. Like, I guess I collect it when I see it and I enjoy it, but I think the process and the idea of just coming into the studio on a daily basis, no matter what I feel like, no matter what I'm doing, and just working. So that's where all this stuff comes from. You know, if you're just sitting around waiting for inspiration, you know, it might not ever show up. You might just be waiting for the rest of your life. But I feel like if you go into your studio or wherever it is that you're working and you start doing that work, no matter how bad or how like misdirected it is, out of that process of working comes other ideas. It's a self-perpetuating machine. Like I feel like the more you work, the more ideas you get and the more inspired you become to try out those ideas.